The finals, GE Tigers versus SK Telecom. And SKT with Top, with Easyhoon, takes the 3-0.
Coup Tigers are falling. SKT will be your first ever two-time world champions.
This group of players that had either retired or been rejected by other teams comes in, no big sponsor, no big team house. It's not necessary because they are going to win LCK Summer and they are going to get a spot in Worlds again.
You're seeing Rox Tigers just steal the fans' hearts with their personalities. The way they play is easy to love as well.
Prey is such a man to flash straight back into the fight. No one thought, everyone was like, why is he not walking towards the Baron wall to flash over? No, repositions, DPS is down, Faker, even gets bang on the side as well.
This is the time we finally take down SKT in the semis to finally get a chance to hoist the Summoners Cup. Let's knock down SKT.
The out arrows, look at the out, get teleport. He goes,
He's stopped too, but Capstick gets pushed.
Sometimes the biggest risk you can take is when everyone says your career is over and you say no. In 2015, League of Legends superstar Prey was at the end of his rope. Prey's career began with early success in Korea's budding competitive scene, where he'd thrilled fans with his hyper-aggressive playstyle.
Weakness where Samsung Blue doesn't counter.
Oh, nice crescendo! Look at that, Deft and Heart just torn apart. Double kill for Prey already. Good absolute zero, zones up some of the members of Blue, and Sword just tearing apart. Triple kill already for Prey as he comes back. He's going for the Quadra, gets it onto Spirit. Can they slow him down? Can they give Prey this pentakill? It's gonna take a long time to kill Acorn, but another snowball. Prey going for it, and there it is, the pentakill for Prey.
But unfortunately for Prey, that aggression didn't amount to much internationally, as he fell short at Worlds in 2012 and again in 2013. In fact, it got so bad that the community even began memeing on some of his champion picks. And after a truly disappointing spring 2014, Prey's career looked over.
Really disappointing for Notch and Black Sword, especially considering how well they played in Champions and Masters up until this point. They really didn't look good tonight. They didn't play aggressively enough.
After leaving Najin and missing summer 2014, it would have been understandable if Prey had just packed it all in. But instead, he joined up with a crew of rejects and risked everything on one last shot at getting to the top.
락스 타이거즈에 입단하게 된 계기는 처음에는 팀을 나온 선수들이 모인 건데
다들 뭔가 한이 있었던 것 같아요. 다들 실패도 해봤고
So, the Rox Tigers. Who exactly were they?
Yeah, so ultimately, I think this is a team of misfits, right? So you've got Gorilla, a support player that I think a lot of people saw as a rising star at the time. Other than him, everybody on that team is someone that the Korean scene is discounted or overlooked. These are players that were trying to find the results, they were struggling to perform, and in some cases, they even wound up teamless.
Yeah, and it didn't help that in 2014, there were two things. There was the Korean exodus, and then the LCK implemented a rule that forced sister orgs to combine the rosters into one. And neither of those things helped the player stocks at all.
I mean, even back then, the strength of the Korean League was well known. I mean, we had teams like SKT and Samsung that were so dominant, it really didn't leave much room for other teams to succeed internationally.
Or even like domestically, because if you think about it, Prey and Gorilla were the only players that had any success on that team.
I mean, they weren't exactly what you could call a super team, I guess. I mean, it was a pretty risky venture for these guys.
Yeah, but they found some other ways to stand out.
Ooh, I love their signs today. It's so classy.
Yeah.
They're cheerfuls.
It's very modern. Wes Anderson designed those cheerfuls.
It really does.
And what the hell am I looking at? That is a bunch of cat ears. I don't know what's going on. We're going to like Hello Kitty schools. I'm totally...
What?
I've never seen a team that is louder than the Coup Tigers. They're always having a good time, laughing, shouting at each other in the booth.
The Tigers burst onto the scene in 2015 in a big way. Despite an embarrassing loss to Team WE at IEM, they finished first in the LCK spring regular season.
Wow, this is going to be, I thought we were going to go to 3 games, but instead we get one of the fastest nights we've had yet as the GE Tigers get another 2-0 and improve to 6-0 overall in the season. GG. Wow, what a team these GE Tigers have become.
But as bright as things were looking for the Tigers, they fell short in the spring playoffs.
A triple kill for Marin, and SKT with Tom, with Easyhoon, takes the 3-0. GG, we'll see you at the Invitational.
The loss shook the Tigers, and summer was far less smooth. Because of their circuit points though, Prey and his teammates made it back to Worlds in 2015.
사실 롤드컵을 나진에서 갔었고 그런 팀에서 제가 나온다는 게 좀 불안은 했어요. 왜냐하면 내가 나가서 잘할 수도 있을까라는 생각을 했는데 이렇게 새로 또 롤드컵에 오게 되니까 감회가 새롭고요. 저번에는 한번 제가 많은 실수를 해서 떨어졌지만 이번에는 좀 더 잘하고 싶어서 더 많이 연습을 하게 되는 것 같아요.
정말 동경 어린 눈으로만 보던 곳인데 거기 제가 오니까 참 신기한 것 같아요.
But the shadow of SKT still loomed large, and in the end, in the grand finals at Worlds, the Tigers just couldn't step out of it.
SKT will be your first ever 2-time world champions!
And yet, despite the sting of the loss, the Tigers changed the narrative. Their risk to band together paid off. But true victory was still another risk away. In 2016, now called the Rox Tigers, and with new jungler Peanut along for the ride, the roster again smashed into SKT in the spring and was forced to settle for second. But the summer went differently. And despite being backed into a corner by Katie Rolster, the Tigers refused to be runners-up again.
Fighting for perhaps their team life. Baron taken. Oh, it's taken by Smeb. Smeb stole the Baron. Smeb stole the Baron. They're going after Fly now. And Rox Tigers turning it around. Hachani solo. That's 2 kills. That's 2 kills for Smeb.
Unbelievable Baron steal.
This group of players that had either retired or been rejected by other teams comes in, no big sponsor, no big team house. It's not necessary because they are going to win LCK Summer and they are going to get a spot in Worlds again. There it is, Rox Tigers take it, GG, it's about time.
First place, and first seed for Korea at Worlds, no less. If this was a sign of things to come, then Prey's decision to join the Tigers was vindicated. The Rejects were aiming for the top at Worlds 2016, but to get there, they'd have to enter uncharted waters. How did the Rox Tigers start off at Worlds then?
So I think a lot of people had them as favorites at the event, right? Given their performance in summer, they win the whole thing. People saw them as having a really good chance of winning the tournament. But I think it's really important to note this roster never took a best of 5 against SKT during the whole lifespan of the Tigers. So if they were gonna win Worlds, it meant they would have to finally defeat their kryptonite, right? That said, this team was amazing. Their individuals were so great, and more than that, as a team, they were really innovators.
Yeah, and the thing is, with every Worlds tournament, there's an OP pick. There's a pick that's either going to be highly contested or permabanned every game, and in this tournament, it was support Zyra.
I remember this Zyra so well. Like, she was insane. She was being picked or banned every game in that whole playoffs.
Yeah, she was so annoying, and that was all because of her poke. It was her poke and it was her scaling in the late game, which basically made her a magic dealer for her team. And the thing is, leading up into the semifinals, SKT picked her about 4 times, and I think Rox picked her 3 times.
Yeah, and those picks were enough for both teams to win their quarterfinal matches, which gives us that 6th semifinal, right? Where Rox finally has a chance to face down SKT, really defeat that kryptonite. But when it came time for the semis to actually start, I feel like the vibe was maybe a little bit different than what you might expect.
When the Tigers faced down SKT for their most important match all year, they seemed to take it all in their stride. But Rox was serious about one thing. They had no intention of banning Zyra. After losing game 1 to her, they had a secret weapon of their own lined up to cut her down to size: Misfortune.
They actually have done
an insta-locked Misfortune.
something really weird. I don't care about my last point.
This is an insta-locked Misfortune.
I can't wait to watch Gorilla support MF. They must have been saving this pick forever.
초반에 개인 거의 안 가고 그냥 시야.
야, 쟤네 잘못 골랐다.
뭐야?
야.
잘못 고른 거지?
네.
저거를 일부러 하려고 하나?
아니야.
Pulling out a pocket pick with so much on the line was a huge risk. And yet, standing shoulder to shoulder with his friend Gorilla, Prey had everything he needed to make history.
Ash arrow?
Arrows land on the Wolf, and it's just going to be too much damage too fast.
Even Faker seemed rattled by Rox's momentum.
If SKT can fight back, it will mean so much for this series because this is the largest goal deficit at 20.
Faker with one of the worst flashes.
And as the game continued, Rox started to pull away.
So what exactly was it about this Misfortune pick that made her so good?
Well, she was just the perfect counter to Zyra. Her E would clear the Zyra plants, her Q could bounce off of it to poke. In fact, her poke was just as annoying as Zyra's.
Yeah, that lane was just so toxic to play against, right? That's the whole thing. That's a big part of why she was so meta. The other big support pick at the time is Karma, right? And she kind of shares that trait. What we know, though, is that when Rox were practicing for this series, they were scrimming against RNG. And in the scrims, Gorilla was really struggling with these matchups. He was really struggling versus Uzi and Mata. And in these practice games, they just could never win bot lane against the Zyra. So they started doing what Rox have always done best. They start innovating and experimenting. They start trying out different picks. And after some trial and error, they finally land on that iconic support MF pick.
But even with their secret weapon, game 2 wasn't a guaranteed win.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's still SK Telecom at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that SKT roster just felt inevitable. Like, you had to close out against them early, and if you didn't...
It was only a matter of time.
This is going to be dangerous. Pina's going to keep running. Wolf's going to look for the... Oh, not going to get the root, but the Strike of Thorns will land. The kickback doesn't mean much to Blank, and that should be a kill onto the Rox Tigers jungler.
Rox was able to secure a kill on Bang, and with a second inhibitor vulnerable, they understandably wanted to end the game before things could spiral further. They had to push to finish it now, but they needed time. Prey was playing Ashe in game 2. Her ultimate, Enchanted Crystal Arrow, has no maximum range, and the longer it flies, the longer it stuns the target if it lands. Prey and Kuro were already inside SKT's base, barreling down on their Nexus. Meanwhile, across the map, Gorilla was already doing his part by standing toe-to-toe with Faker, preventing him from returning. But they only had a few minions with them, and if SKT's Duke was allowed to recall or teleport, the decisive push by Rox would likely be stopped dead. So Prey took the longest shot of his life.
And they even got the pick off on Bang.
Rox doesn't actually have to stop pushing right now. They can delay the recalls. The arrows. Look at the arrow. He can teleport.
He's stopped Duke, which means they can push. It's now on Wolf. It's a teleport coming in for Smith and Kuro. How much more can be done?
They want to win right now.
To tank. Wolf running out of health. He's going to die off. Onto the turrets they go, but the minions are gone, and it's too much. SKT are here to defend. This is a difficult 3v2. Pushing down Duke, down below 1,000. Ults back on towards Prey, push back yet again, but Smith's running low, but they get it. In the Nexus, they're trying to burn it down. Is this not going to be enough? It's not. Rox Tigers answer back with game 2.
The arrow stunned more than just Duke. The entire arena seemed to hold their breath as it sailed. Prey and the Tigers won that game in the most Tigers way imaginable. They bet everything on their experience, their instincts, and themselves.
What can you say? What a moment. What an insane moment. That's one of those moments that I show to my friends who don't play League, who don't even know League. You know, that's one of those moments I show to them and say, look, this is what it's all about. This is what the game is about.
Yeah, it's one of the most iconic moments of all time, for sure, right? Across the game. And this series was full of those moments. Like, I think there's a reason that people look back on the series and think of it as, you know, one of the best BO5s of all time. Easily, I think. And when you look back on Worlds 2016 with hindsight, a lot of people feel that this series, SKT Rox, was really sort of the unofficial grand final of the tournament. The most hyped series of the event really was this incredible showdown.
Yeah, and you have to keep in mind that, like, if that arrow didn't hit, who knows what happens? Peta and Kuro are making like a lot of crucial mistakes, and obviously SKT being the team they were going to capitalize on that. The momentum was slowly creeping back in their favor. So that arrow needed to hit.
Yeah, I mean, and as we talked about earlier, if you let a game like that go long enough, you give a team like SKT a chance to get themselves back into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more than any other team in history, like, this SKT roster just had a sort of magic about them. Like, no matter what happened, no matter what the gold lead was, you could just never count them out.
We have to praise Rox Tigers too, right? I mean, they were magical.
Yeah, I still remember like how I felt when that arrow hit. I thought they were gonna do it. They were finally gonna do it. They were gonna overcome their demons. All those like nights of me waking up at 4 a.m. to watch the Rox Tigers play in my dorm, like, it was all finally gonna pay off. Like, we were gonna win Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, greatest team of all time, certainly our favorite team of all time. I think there's a real reason that people love this roster. It wasn't just about the plays, it wasn't just about the friendship, it was about the magic, it was about the moment. Like, there's a reason that when they won Summer, Andrew cried, right? It's a team that I think, people have said this before, but there's never gonna be another team quite like the Rox Tigers, and it's something really special to look back on. All that said, unfortunately, when it came down to this series, SKT really started to catch on to their game plan.
The Tigers were able to crush Lane and dethorn Zyra in Game 3 too. So much so that SKT were forced to ban Misfortune in Games 4 and 5. The series slipped away from Rox.
And it's all the FG wrote for this one. SK Telecom T1 backs against the wall. Bangy himself 3-0 against Rox Tigers in the series, and SKT punched their ticket to their third World Final.
The Tigers went down fighting, and they delivered a fantastic series here, no matter who came out of this Game 5.
Best series I've ever seen. Absolutely an incredible series. Beautiful League of Legends for both these squads. Amazing competitors on all sides.
Losing to a team considered by many to be the greatest ever isn't exactly shameful though. In fact, Faker called it the hardest match he had played to date.
오늘 경기가 진짜 제 롤 역사상 가장 힘들었던 경기였던 것 같고, 이렇게 가져가게 돼서 만족감도 더 큰 것 같아요. 그런데 저는 마음 한켠으로는 좀 락스 타이거즈가 좀 안타까운 느낌도 들었는데.
The tenacious Tigers earned that reputation on the Rift and off. And they were only able to do that because they chose to rewrite the narrative around them. They all shot their shot, but it was Prey's arrow into the dark that went down in history.
Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, hit the sub button and ring the notification bell. For unique bite-sized videos you won't find anywhere else, hit us up on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.